Welcome to the Winning in Business podcast. I'm your host, Kelly Rissy, and I love talking to business professionals, leaders, and entrepreneurs who are winning in business. Are you ready to reach your next level of success? If so, join us on the Winning in Business podcast as I interview entrepreneurs, business professionals, and leaders who share how they've risen to success. Before we begin, go ahead, hit subscribe and the notification button so you'll be notified each time a new episode is released. Plug in and settle in. You're about to be inspired to rise up to your next level of success. Welcome back, listeners, to the Winning in Business podcast. I'm super excited that you are here today. And I am interviewing Julie Smith, and I'm so excited to have this conversation with her. So Julie is the practice manager at Harper and Company CPAs Plus and brings a strategic approach into managing the practice. Empowering others to develop into their best professional selves is her passion, and her superpower is teaching people how to get out of their own way so they can successfully execute change, build positive cultures, and move their business forward. With specific expertise in the business of public accounting, Julie also speaks nationwide and enjoys inspiring others in the profession to take action, evolve, and grow. She is the co-host of the podcast Empowering Entrepreneurs, and Julie is married with two beautiful daughters who keep her busy outside of work. And in addition to spending time with family, she enjoys traveling, sporting events, and running. So Julie, thank you and welcome to Winning in Business.
Thanks for having me on.
Yes, I'm so excited. There's so many things I want to talk about today. So before we dive into kind of what I want to bring up and pick your brain about, just tell us, like, how did you get into doing what you do?
Yeah, that's a great question and a great story. So I had my first child, had a full-time corporate, career that was very demanding and decided, maybe I needed to take a step back and have some balance. And another colleague had introduced me to Glenn and kind of had the conversation and said, I really am striving for balance. And what does that mean? And how can we achieve that? And he was in and I was in. And so there started kind of what we began to create here. I think I've learned through that process, and I know we've kind of chatted about this, is some personalities are not meant to kind of take that back. It's finding that balance in a completely different way. And what does that mean? And really being able to define that for yourself, and what worked for other people in my circle didn't necessarily work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yes. 100% understand that, because it really is different for everybody. And I think that's sometimes where people can get caught in a trap, is like, oh, but this is working for someone, except then it doesn't work for them, and they're spinning their wheels. So, what I know about you is that you completely changed or helped change the business model of the firm that you're in. So, just tell us about that.
Yeah, we really wanted to change that, kind of, I want to say, old-fashioned CPA firm mentality where there's silos and everyone's kind of doing their own book of business, and there's no really transfer of knowledge internally, and no one's really being empowered to do something that maybe they're very capable of doing. So we wanted to change that to this team proactive approach, especially for our clients. And what does that mean? We don't want to be simply transactional. Compliance is a function of, but that's not really what we wanted to focus on. We wanted to focus on the entrepreneurs and being trusted partners with our clients, and then also bringing that mentality internally as well. So we've really been able to change that. Our culture, is something I'm fiercely protective of, that we've been able to create here internally, and everybody working together as a team, everyone understanding their strengths and weaknesses. Not one person has to be good at every single thing. And really being able to hone in and understand that, so we raise everybody's strengths up. And as a team, we're able to make sure those weaknesses are never uncovered.
When we were talking and you had mentioned work-life balance in the beginning, do you feel like bringing this new approach into the firm has also helped the CPAs find a little bit more balance? Because I know sometimes that is really challenging for a specific industry.
And I think we've really, that goes along with kind of that big culture change here, is that work-life balance. It's quality over quantity. And so we really wanted to hone in on that. And, I didn't want to necessarily be a compliance-driven firm, which is where you get all those hours from, February through April 15th. If we here internally are doing what we say we're going to do. Tax season is just that function of just that end conclusion. Everything else has been done throughout the entire year. And so we've really been able to take what needs to be done for a client and break it out over 12 months. And that way, then we're really balancing out that workload, not only for our clients, but obviously here for our team internally as well.
Oh my gosh, that is so important. And you know what I also know is that you have trademarked, I guess the Julie, which I think is so cool. And, so now CPA firms are really looking inside their company asking, do we have the Julie, right, to help us be more cohesive or bring this new change about? Just share that, because I love that. When I saw like the Julie and it was trademarked, I'm like, oh, that's brilliant.
Well, so as I started to speak and really, be in the industry and want to be a part of the change in the industry, it was interesting to me how many people didn't have this role inside the firm. The owners, I think sometimes forget that delegation and empowerment is so important when you're trying to scale and grow a business. And I think as the industry continues to change and continues to evolve, this role is going to be so important. It's kind of that bridge between ownership and the team, and really being able to take the vision of where the firm wants to go and being able to figure out how to get your team to execute that. And again, it's kind of taking that owner out of being able to, do all the things and be a part of all those things in a very strategic way. And again, am I a little weird about my name being trademarked? Yes. Interesting as we kept going around and, I kept saying, oh, it's the firm champion, or, having another name for it. And people would literally call here and be like, so how do we find the Julie? And it kind of became a joke between Glenn and I. And then, I'm like, I just need to, instead of pushing it off, I need to embrace that. And again, I think it's the role and the characteristics and the personality of that role that are so integral and part of this change of the industry.
Oh, well, I love that. And congratulations for having the trademark, the Julie.
Thank you.
So, looking at all the success that you have had, I mean, and starting in corporate America and then leaving and now, being at the firm, all your success, what skills, qualities, mindset do you feel have proven to really help you with your success? Like, let's give some listeners some ahas here about your success and if they can adopt any of those things for themselves.
We always talk here internally, when you go to hire, you hire for things that can't be taught. There's always you got to have that really delineation between, okay, I can teach this, but I can't teach this. Mm-hmm. This industry, people are so hung up on that CPA with 5 to 7 years experience. I hate to break it to the industry, but I can teach a person anything with that. I can't necessarily teach some of these intangibles, which is work ethic, self-motivation, really getting in the grit of it, really having that perseverance, not having that willingness, we have the F word here internally, fail. We never fail. We just pivot. We just, move and do something slightly different. And I think really being able to see the difference between, I don't think I realized that till this role is I have a little bit of integrator in me. I also have a little bit of visionary in me. And so being able to have those two things and being able to see that big picture, where we're going, and then being able to kind of back into that to execute and empower the teammates to be able to really get where we're going has really been, again, life-changing here in our firm.
Yeah, I think, a couple things that you said. Well, first of all, having the ability to be the visionary and have some of the executor, like that's huge, because we know that sometimes visionaries, they're just always like ideas, and then nothing gets implemented, right? Unless they're really communicating that well. And I feel like you having both of those is probably what makes it so successful, because you understand the vision and you understand there has to be some implementation and execution of it, or it's never going to come to, fruition in that way.
Between Glenn and I think there's just a huge accountability role too. So if I say I'm going to do something, he's eventually going to ask if it gets done. And I think oftentimes those dreamers, those visionaries kind of forget to keep that focus and be accountable to what needs to be done to get to that next level. And same with him. If he says he's going to do something, there's just that accountability, responsibility, and respect between the two of us to be able to execute on whatever that vision and dream is moving forward.
Yes. You know, and when we talk about entrepreneurs and small business owners, especially, like that is huge, because when you are, you know, the greatest thing is being the owner of your own business. And sometimes the hardest thing, you know, that doesn't come with the accountability. And you really either you need to hire a coach, you need to have an accountability partner, whatever that looks like, to make sure that the things do get executed. Or again, they're just ideas floating out into the universe.
And it's funny you say that, you know, I didn't even think this was going to come up, but I just had a conversation with a client literally an hour ago. And I said, you know, you hired us because you said you wanted to be accountable. You hired us because you said you wanted to take your business to the next level. I don't think that's really what you wanted. You have yet to commit to the things that we have given in order to get there. And so you have to make that decision. I can hold you accountable. I can tell you the plan. I can't necessarily execute all those steps. So you have to commit to being able to do that. And it's so interesting how people want it. They say they want it, but they're not quite there yet in regards to that commitment to take it to the next level, because it's tough. It's hard work. It takes that grit, that grind, that motivation, that perseverance, because it's not easy. And that's why not everyone is, you know, being able to do some of the things that requires.
Yeah, I think that is so important. You know, when we look at mindset, does it just need to be a mindset shift, right? Of really taking the action, doing it. Why are you doing it? You know, things like that. Or I think this is another question that we have to ask ourselves sometimes. Are we looking for or wanting the wrong thing right now? Right. So it sounds like we should want this, except really, like, that's not aligned right now with our values and who we are. And we have to change really who we're being in order to reach the what we want to be doing. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I think that's true. And again, you say mindset shift. And I think that goes hand in hand with what you said, because whatever your mindset is in that moment or where you want to be, you have to be willing to do that work to get there. Right.
Yeah.
And so I think those two things go hand in hand, and just really, I think it's also that commitment level of the words, but then can your actions kind of back that up?
Yes. Yes. Okay, good. So what other ahas do you have for us? What else do you see as being like a big quality or a skill that has really led to your success?
You know, I just really think it's that hard work, that really being able and staying humble and understanding and persevering over all those pivotal moments of, you know, I look back and think, like, how did we ever get here? Because it wasn't easy. Yeah, I'm here now and I can say, you know, hey, life is great. We're here. But it was not like that. It took, you know, so much work, so much time in order to be able to do that. And it's all about relationships, right? And I think we really learned that throughout the course of, you know, where we are, is no matter where you are in life, whether it's business, whether it's personal, whatever that is, it all goes back to relationships. And, you know, I always say, like, I'm an introvert, and everybody that knows me would be like, no, you're not. Not looking to meet new people, you know, but then Glenn's like, how come every time I leave you at a business function, you're the one talking to all the people? I'm like, I don't know. Like, but I really am an introvert, like an introvert extrovert, you know, and we've really been able just to cultivate a relationship and a community around, you know, not even around us, but around an idea and around something so much bigger than the firm, so much bigger than us, that has really, you know, helped kind of anchor us down in where we're going. And I think that if I can say, relationships are huge, and building a community of like-minded people that, hey, there's no judgment here. Hey, I have an idea. What do you guys think about this? And literally sometimes I get like, where did that come from? And I'm like, okay, I got to reevaluate. Did I communicate that correctly? And then sometimes people are like, run with that, Julie. That's a great idea. Like, hey, how can we help? How can we tap into that? And so then it becomes, you know, there's success in this world. I think there's enough for everybody to go around. And so being able, you know, I'm not afraid of what they are going to do with that idea, and passing that along, and having that just safe space to kind of have those conversations, instead of, I think entrepreneurs, they have a lot of those conversations internally, and it just keeps going internally. And sometimes when you say it and you get it out and you're able to have that conversation, that it either turns into gold or you're able to pivot into something to find that other gold.
Yes, I love that. The word that came to mind for me when you were talking about relationships is trust. Having the trust, right? Because when you know, like, and trust people, then it is so much easier to share ideas, because even if it's not the greatest idea, you are still valued for the idea. And when you have people that you trust and you have developed that relationship, this seed of an idea can turn into a whole lot of things with other people's input. You know what I mean? And I think that's like, it can just like spiral off and become something just so amazingly great when you
So
have those
true.
relationships in place.
And I think, we talk about we've built a team internally. We also have, a team of clients, but like, I think that aha moment was building that team that surrounded our team.
Mm.
Making sure we had that, I think it's just such a lonely world out there when you're an entrepreneur generally. And so being able to say, hey, I have this great idea, or man, today was just really tough. And like needing someone just to pick you back up and say, hey, get back, get up, get it again tomorrow. Like, you got this. And I think when you create that community to be able to do that, it makes you want to be better. And they will not allow you to have, you have unlimited pivots in that world, in that space.
Yes. Oh, that's what I was going to talk about earlier. So you called them pivots. And, I always like to say that failure is only feedback, right? So it's not failure. It's just a lesson. Like, what's the lesson, which then can allow you to pivot, grow, learn, and move along in a different direction. So you brought up work ethic several times. Where did you learn your work ethic? Like, was that through your family, or
I would love to have like a case study on that, to be like, is that learned, or whatever that is like.
Yeah.
I would love to understand that, because I just always say, like, you can't teach work ethic, and you kind of go with your gut when you hire people. But I think it just comes from wanting something so much bigger and better. I grew up in small town USA on a farm, like, what else more could you want? My dad is old and retired and still probably works more hours than the average American. And just wanting, having that desire again for something that's bigger and better, and that drive and fire inside of you to be able to do that. I again, is it learned, or I have no idea that answer. I would love to have that answer from someone, but I just think it comes from, that F word doesn't exist in my mind. Again, it's just a lesson and a pivot. And what else can we do with what we've learned? Being an athlete, I think, proved that time and time again. You get beat down, or you lose, or whatever the case is, and getting back up and practicing harder, and going to practice 30 minutes earlier, and doing the extra conditioning or lifting or whatever that is to make yourself better has always been a part of my life. And so I think that just rolled over right into my career.
Yeah, that's great. I don't know the answer if it's learned or just, innately.
Yeah, I'm curious now. Like,
yeah. And I think that I agree with you in the fact that when we have a bigger why, and our why is really like, why are we here on earth? And it's really to impact others, right? To impact, to share our gifts, to share our talents, to be the best that we can be. And I think when we're always keeping that in the forefront of our mind, then we have work ethic, because it's not all about us. It's about other people and spreading joy and spreading, whatever the gift is that we do.
well, and I think it's, as leaders, whatever it be in an industry, in your church, in a company, in your family, wherever leadership is, it's a true leader wants everybody else to be better than them. I want everybody else to rise way higher than I am. How can I help you get to where you want to be? What is success defined for you? How do we all achieve what we want to achieve? It's not about me. Mm-hmm. And I think oftentimes we get lost in that me approach. And I think that's when we, have to pivot and take a step back and have a little bit more awareness of like, this is about something way bigger than yourself. And the success of the people around you, I think, defines almost who you are more than your own success.
Yeah, one of the reasons that as I've pivoted my coaching practice to really be working with like stress management, which to me also goes along with mindset and healthy habits and like all the different things. But the reason that I really started focusing on stress is because I feel like when you are someone that is burdened with stress and you don't have the stress management tools that you need, and again, everybody needs different tools, right? It's not a one size approach fits all. you often lose sight of that. You know what I mean? And you become like stress just like kind of takes over. And when you can release that stress and really navigate through the stress is never going away, right? Our chaotic world, although, the hope is for it to become not chaotic, but really there's always going to be something of chaos, right? And really being able to navigate that, I think then allows people to really live their best selves and to be able to do exactly what we were talking about in spreading the hope and the message and the love across the world. And you can't do that in a stressed out state.
And do you find that empowering entrepreneurs that they somehow just attract that stress and chaos? Like 1 hour off their plate, right? And somehow they'll find 2 more to put on it.
Yes.
And I love that characteristic of people, because they're like, what's the end game? And they'll give you all these scenarios, and in reality, you already know, like, there is no end game for that type of personality. No matter what they tell you, they're going to always continuously be going full throttle ahead.
Yes. And which is so interesting, because one of the things that I do when we talk about stress is identifying stress personalities, because when you can identify the stress personality and go, like, look at me, I am being, XYZ, whatever, then you can start to go back and go, maybe I could pull back from that personality and let go of some stress right now. So very, very fascinating.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Okay. So, what I do like to keep it real. We are talking about stress, challenge wise. What do you still face? Like, what challenges do you still face in the success of your career?
Yeah. I don't think that my mind ever shuts off. Always, like, a year ago, I had this idea that I wanted to do a podcast, Glenn and I, to host a podcast. And it was about, empowering entrepreneurs. And it was like, how much fun will this be to sit down and just talk with entrepreneurs? And then all of a sudden it became this, bigger than what I had even imagined. Like, hey, I'm going to take on a hobby. And then all of a sudden I created another job for myself almost. And fulfilling, right? In all this sorts. But like, I went back to, like, as soon as you think that I'm like, ooh, I kind of have a well-run business here, and I've empowered everyone to be able to do those key things, and I can kind of take a step back, I filled it right back up. And then Glenn and I go and travel and speak, to the industry. And it's so fulfilling to be able to try to make that change. But we give our time consistently to try to have those conversations for people to have that aha moment that we've been able to have. And so I think it's just being able to balance and prioritize every day, because it changes every day as to what those most important aspects are, in the firm, in the other businesses, and what does that mean for us, and hoping you choose wisely that day, that you don't let anyone down and you're able to fulfill all those obligations. And then, also keep your mind at bay in regards to all those other ideas that you have. I think that's just a constant internal battle for myself in regards to, like, did I do enough? Have I done enough? What can I do with this? Where can I go with this? I need 1 more hour in the day to be able to achieve that. And it's just not feasible.
Yes. I feel like that is a question that a lot of people have, especially high achievers. It's always, am I doing enough? Right? Because we have so many dreams, so many things that we want to fulfill. And then we almost question ourselves, like, am I doing enough? Right? Our schedule's filled. We've been successful at things, and we're still like, am I doing enough? And instead of looking at every day, almost like, did I do enough today? And remembering that the did I do enough has nothing to do with, am I enough? Right? Because I think sometimes people get that, like, I am only enough if I am doing enough, instead of, no, you are always enough, no matter what. Are you, is what you're doing just in alignment with who you are, mind, body, and spirit? And, the mind not shutting off, that is also so common in people that are truly winning in business. And for me, in that spot, I always have to ask myself, yes, this is a fabulous idea right now for me. Is it furthering what I want to do, or distracting me from, like, the long end game, right? Is it the distraction, or is it really the next steps? Like, that's just something I'm always asking myself, and usually the people that I coach as well. Distraction, or really moving you forward?
Oh yeah. And I think, as women too, as we, have these successful careers and successful entrepreneurs, and our minds are just wired, I think, a little bit different, to have to switch over to that momhood. It's sometimes a tough transition to just like, I got to shut this. I have to be all in over here, and to be able to kind of do that, because then you're like, oh man, I consistently am like, okay, if I'm over here, I'm not fulfilling over here. And if I'm over here, I'm not fulfilling over here. And it's just this constant battle of, feeling like, am I only doing this 50% because I'm over here, and I think it's a tough place for women to be in that are, that want to achieve a great career and want that success and that right. And being able to kind of come to terms with that in your own mind in regards to how you're going to work through that.
Yes, yes. And I know, you mentioned that you have 2 kids. So how do you do that? Like, do you have a special way that you really, I'm going to call it like compartmentalizing, you know what I mean? But how does that shift work for you?
Yeah, so I really try. So a couple days a week, I pick my kids up from school, and it is just mom time. And it's like, okay, we're going to do these things, don't have any screen time. This week we baked no-bake cookies and did some other things. And, I really want to be involved in their life. I want them to be strong, confident, independent women who just want to conquer the world and, do what they want to do, not what anyone else is telling them they have to do. And I think that comes from, we talked about, Julie, do you have one more hour in the day? And I'm like, okay, so what can I get rid of? Because I'm going to go coach my daughter's, travel basketball team. And I want to impact these girls in a positive way that, our number one rule as a team is we can do hard things. Mm-hmm. Easy. We can all do them. We just have to commit to doing them. We're all going to do them together as a team. And so I think just really being able to impact their lives. And, Ella, my oldest, she said the other day, she said, we're getting ready to go to practice. And she's like, Mom, do you coach to spend more time with me? And it just like, the heartstrings, right away, because I thought, you know what, you're absolutely right. That is why I'm doing this, is to spend time to impact you in a completely different way than I could have being at home. Mm-hmm. And again, just wanting to give back to those girls and make them believe in themselves. And that's really important to me as well.
As growing up in sports, you said you played sports as well. Did you feel like you got that? Like, where did your confidence come from?
Gosh, I don't know. I've been asked that question a couple of times and I really can't pinpoint it. I really do think sports influence your confidence as a female. And I think it is important to figure out what you're passionate about and get involved in it and, do it to your best ability. I had a couple really integral people that were in my life growing up with sports that, hey, they would tell me exactly like it is, like, Julie, you sucked this game. What's going on? And holding me accountable for my actions. And hey, maybe I just had a crappy game and it's okay. But being able to have those conversations are like, man, you were great today. Like, or hey, you should work on, like, just having the ability to have kind of, I don't even want to say a mentor, but someone who believes in you. I think it's so important. My parents believed in me, but that's a completely different relationship than an outsider who's just like, you're going to rock the world. Like, you go do you. And I want to make that impact on, if I can make that impact on one girl, in my lifetime, then I've done my job.
Oh my gosh, which I know you are, like, just from knowing you in the short amount of time I have, I know you are making such a big impact. And when you were saying that, honestly, it brought tears to my eyes, because I think back to the people that were so influential in my life that are still my biggest fans on Facebook, right? You know what I mean? That are like, oh my gosh, like, I knew you could do it. And I'm so proud of you. And that, like, when I look back to, one of them I met when I was, 5 years old, that mentored me, coached me, all of that. And then the other one was very pivotal in high school, and I was on the dance team. So it was the, we called it drill team back then. It was the coach. And so then when you can give back, like you are doing, and I love that, when you're talking about your kids, the quality time over quantity time. Sometimes I think we have to remember that, is that we could be around our kids 8 hours a day, but if it's not quality time, it really doesn't matter. And so just spending that, like you're like, we have specific time, there's no screens involved. That is a blessing for you and your kids. One of the biggest things that I look back at and for me is there were years because of my stress level and because of what I was doing, and I didn't know what I know now. I was not present with my kids. They were with me. I was physically there. I could touch them, and yet I wasn't present. And that's another thing that I think is so important, is to be able to be present when we are spending time with our kids, since we're business owners and, aren't just home all day around them.
Right. No, I think that's so important. And you and I had talked about it before, but I had to take my youngest to a podcast recording, and I left the door cracked to the studio, and, I'm in there doing my thing, and, I can see her peeking through, she's giving me the thumbs up. And I got off the podcast and we're wrapping up, and I said, I have an idea, everybody. Everybody around me knows, like, oh my gosh, Julie has an idea. But hey, what do you guys think about, I have some great influential women in my life. Let's get them on a podcast, but let's get them on the podcast with their daughters. Let's talk about, what does it mean to everybody on that podcast? Like, what does it mean to you to be a working mom? And what does it mean for you to have a working mom? What does that mean to you? And so we did a Working Entrepreneurs Momcast, and I think it's just so influential for people that don't guilt yourself for what you're doing, because you're making a bigger impact on your children than what you think. And they see you working hard. And yeah, you may not miss, or you may miss something, or, something may happen, but they see you as their superhero in general. And I think we lose sight of that. And so keep that in mind the next time you're beating yourself up over something.
Yes. Good. I agree. Excellent. So what are your goals in business and life? We're approaching 2023 here. I imagine they're very lofty.
With the Julie, I really want to focus, I think, 2023 on that, and helping that industry and educating them on what that means in that role. And how do you execute change within your firm by implementing that role, or taking someone internally to have that role, and bridging that gap between ownership and the team. And so that's really going to be my focus in 2023. The podcast is my passion. So really want to take that to the next level too, in regards to, what does that mean? It's no longer a hobby, longer, something like that. It's, what strategies and things can we do to really, make a difference in entrepreneurs? It was meant for, entrepreneurs are lonely people. How can we have a conversation where everybody can come to the room and relate and take away one piece of advice? And so really want to, again, just making that impact, not only in entrepreneurs, but the CPA industry as well, and begin, continuing to foster those relationships. And then, obviously making sure Harper and Company continues to run the way that it does, so that we're able to scale and build the way that we want to.
That's fabulous. And I wish you the best of luck for your goals. I know you will achieve them. So are there any accomplishments that you're really proud of that you'd like to share as we wrap it up here?
Yeah, we won Firm of the Year, the Luca Award Firm of the Year, and that speaks to just what our team has been able to do. We've been able, to completely change and transform the firm, internally and externally. And I think that just speaks volumes to everyone's hard work. I also, it's great that I, got the award, but the Innovative Practitioner Award I think speaks volumes to where the industry is going. I don't have CPA behind my name. I just don't. I actually don't even have a 10 key at my desk. I'm not a numbers person, but I think that just speaks to where that industry is going, is that, hey, there's room for everybody in here and what you bring and the value that you bring. And so I'm really excited for that change.
Nice. Excellent. Excellent. So where can my listeners connect with you?
Yeah. So you can find me on LinkedIn. You can also, we have empoweringentrepreneurs.com is where our podcast is hosted. Our CPA firm is Harper and Company CPAplus.com. It's really a mouthful. I get it. But you can find all those links through my LinkedIn. And we're just trying to continue to push forward.
Yes, excellent. And I will link all of those in the show notes so people can find them. And I have already checked out the podcast and love it. So anyway, I am a listener. So thank you for all the ones that you have put out so far. And I'm excited to see what comes in 2023. And I just want to thank you for your time so much. And I want to remind our listeners that if you know someone that could use the Julie in their firm or the concept of it, please reach out to her. Please connect with her. her, listen to the podcast, and also make sure that you share this podcast, The Winning in Business, with Julie Smith so that others can hear it, and like and comment and be a follower. And until the next time, I hope you all have a great week. Thank you for being a part of the Winning in Business podcast. If you've enjoyed this episode and want to rise up to your next level of success, but are worried about increased stress, time for work and yourself and your family, not to mention being exhausted, I'd like to invite you to a complimentary strategy call where I'll show you how you can do it all. I'll help you reclaim time, keep your sanity, handle the chaos with ease, and move to the next level of success that you deserve and desire. I hope you found value in listening today. Please always leave your comments, feedback, or questions. We check them all. I want you to continue winning in business and reach your next level of success. See you next time.